I know that you've all looked at the interview with Harvard psychologist Gene Heyman in the June 1st issue of Maclean's magazine. Who wants to start us off?
Well, new research on addictions is sure to stir discussion and debate. Many individuals and recovery programs suggest that drug and alcohol addiction is a disease. Maclean's magazine, the June 1st edition, says that Harvard psychologist Gene Heyman is countering that. His research says that our time-honored assumption is wrong. He says addiction is a matter of free will. In other words, it's a choice you make.
And there's already contention on the couch. I can feel it, because Maggie and I were already starting up with that. And I mean, as I read it, I hear you, Moira. I hear about the disease, but it's interesting what he says. I think what he's saying is that for us, it's a problem for many that we see people voluntarily making decisions that would harm themselves. And take aside, say, it's a disease or a gene that we are predisposed of, or to, but that for many people, they choose the first drink, the first joint, the first snort of cocaine. They choose it, and then what happens as they choose, it then becomes an addiction.
Habit forming.
It's habit forming. So we start off with a voluntary decision that sometimes can move into then an involuntary addiction.
And I agree with that. I just don't think that we are capable of having this discussion. I don't know if any of us have really gone through that to really say if it's a disease or if it's not. And so I wonder if, you know, if we
are you talking about a personal experience experiencing going through the addiction, or the research, the scientists that are out there, you know, kind of digging into this? Are you saying that you really need to have personal experience going through it to know if it's a disease or an addiction?
I just don't, like, I have never gone through, you know, going through that. And so I just feel like I can't really say if it's a disease or if it's not. And so I feel uncomfortable having this discussion.
Well, he's under fire, and he admits it. He says, you know, at the end, he goes, I have friends that completely disagree with me. Yeah. So I'm throwing this possibility, this thought out for us to really sit and land on, because for some...
But is it a thought, or is it a definite...
I think he feels definite, so maybe you're right. It's not necessarily a thought, but I think it's a definite... I believe this is...
That's a controversial thought.
Well, you know what the bottom line is? The conclusion of one theory is, I can't help it. Yeah. It's a disease. The other is, I am responsible. My choice is what it's all about. And he does have, this doesn't come out of a test tube, he does have a very interesting find that 60 to 80% of adults in their 30s give up this lifetime addiction.
So there is a choice then, Moira. Like if you are addicted by 30, if that's the percentage, you then have a choice. And I think what's interesting, he says, is that rather than focusing on the addiction, maybe people, and he said AA is a good example, is that we actually help people with decision making prior. So, you know, how to cope with stress in life, how to cope with situations that overwhelm you. Most people would grab maybe a bottle, you know, grab drugs, whatever that addiction is. Let's help people make better decisions for their life than reaching for those things.
So, but Maggie, I think you're right. It is a controversial topic, and a lot of research needs to be done, and before we can really feel like we have a real handle on it. But it was in Maclean's magazine, so, you know, we're talking about it.